Hello, everyone.
Hi, everyone.
I'm Michelle DeLuca. This is my friend Nancy Prue. This is the Power Portal podcast, and we discuss all matters of personal power in an effort to empower each of us to be better, stronger, and to be able to bring more light and goodness and change to the world.
Mm-hmm.
That's about right?
Right. It's all about balance.
It is all about balance. I am a journalist, an author, and I'm just starting in the area of documentary filmmaking. Nancy is an intuitive consultant, longtime equestrian, also a animal intuitive, and a horse whisperer, as I like to say and have said.
Some of my best teachers.
Yes, they are. Nancy's also a student of Carolyn Mays, trained for 5 years with Carolyn. Carolyn is a renowned philosopher, spiritual leader, and renowned medical intuitive. Mm-hmm. And you are working your way towards combining your work with the intuition that animals taught you, and of course the intuition that you learned with Carolyn, to become a healer of humans.
Right. The horse whispering actually has really helped me fine-tune people whispering, understanding the human potential, what we're capable of and what holds us back.
I do think you should start calling yourself a people whisperer.
Yeah.
Yes. Anyway, so we did something last week that we've never done before. We ditched a podcast that we had created, and it was on hatred. I had felt a need to address what I feel is the growing hatred that's occurring in the political divide on both sides. Hatred shuts down everything. I feel like hatred makes people sick. It makes our planet sick. It leads to such hatred that killing can occur, and that creates such havoc everywhere. Hatred is a bad thing.
It's a blindness. I mean, it really makes us literally blind.
I like that. Blindness.
Yeah. That you're not even able. You're reacting versus responding, and it's a very powerful emotion.
Fear-based.
Fear-based. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We hate, I think, most often because we are fearful, and that makes us angry that we have to be fearful, and it makes us hate the perpetrator of our fear. And so what I was looking at the podcast we had created. It was fine. Mm-hmm. We talked a lot about some of the research on how hatred makes you sick, and hatred makes both toxic. The hatey and the hater sick and filled with toxic emotions. But I just didn't have it in me to push the button to publish this podcast called Hate Kills. And so I called Nancy, and I had never done this before. I said, Nance, what do you think if I just kill this thing? And you said, okay.
I mean, I obviously respect your judgment.
Thank you.
This is, like I said, your forte. And as I sat there and thought about it, I felt as if our perspective was in the wrong place. And I had that quote that comes in that where your attention goes, energy flows. And I felt we were focusing on hatred, which was lowering actually the vibration, versus focusing on the potential of where we want to go, not only on the planet, but within ourselves. And I felt as if we needed to focus more on kindness. And what we want to do is lift people.
And that as soon as she said that to me, I understood exactly where all my unease came from with this hate podcast that we had done. And it occurred to me, you were absolutely right. Everything we know says direct your attention to what you want to receive. And so we are creating this podcast about kindness. There is equal research to show that kindness heals. It heals our bodies. It heals our minds. It makes a better world. And so we want to talk about it. Everybody goes, oh, kindness. I know, I'm kind. And that's great. You know, pass it along. Love that. But we really want to talk about the emotional impact of kindness. And, you know, I have studies. There are studies, and I'll link to them. The Mayo Clinic has a story on the art of kindness, noting that kindness has been shown to increase self-esteem, empathy, compassion, and improve mood. It can decrease blood pressure and cortisol, a hormone directly correlated with stress levels. people who give of themselves in a balanced way also tend to be healthier and live longer.
I think that it needs to start when we have this resistance within ourselves. We have to first of all recognize when the resistance shows up. You can't just do kindness. I mean, you can from a logical place say this is what I should do, but if you don't feel it when you're offering kindness, the energy is not following.
They say fake it till you make it, and of course that's probably a good idea, but I was thinking about that on the way here. You can do acts of kindness. Oh, okay, I'll buy the person's coffee behind me in the lineup at the coffee shop.
Yeah, and it's why people go to church maybe too, because if I do this, I go to heaven.
Yeah.
And maybe they're not invested in it. Or they're this could be, it's about being invested in the act.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, which changes everything, which changes your physiological response to whatever it is you're doing, and truly does make you feel better, makes the person feel better, and creates almost a ripple effect, like a positive virus that can move through not only you and the person you're being kind to, but creates maybe kindness to the person. That person, we all know this story. We've been talking about kindness for a long time. Since that movie, Pay It Forward, it got really popular.
That was great.
But I think we really forget the impact that it can have as a beautiful energy that moves through the world and could change everything that's occurring today in this political divide that's not just happening in our country, but you can see kind of simmering in other countries. We are the leader of the world, or we like to think so. I know we are a leader of the world, and when our country is battling each other in this seemingly war that's being created in our political systems, the other countries go, well, if it's happening in America, it spurs other people to act in similar ways. So we're talking about a virus. This has been troubling me since, shortly before COVID started. I wrote a column called Who is Killing Kindness? And it explores the idea of what's taking place not just in my own home, where my husband and I share differing sides of the political spectrum. I believe one way, he believes another, and that stirs up a lot of discontent in my home.
Well, I love that you're noticing that it stirs up a lot of discontent, not only in the home, but you can feel it in your own body.
Oh, for sure. And we're going to talk about how to ease that in a second, but I wanted to make one last point about kindness, and that's this. One of the things I mentioned in that column 4 years ago, right before the start of COVID, was that, when we read stories and when we go to movies, stories and movies are art that can change us, literally change the way we feel about things. And we almost always, and I'm going to say always, because we always root for the good guys. We always root for the hero. We always root for the man or the woman who is kind and good. And then when we leave, we feel elevated by the story we've been told in every movie. Same in the books. When we close the book, we get that there are dark heroes, and we enjoy, I think, as we move through our stories, watching those heroes evolve. But we almost universally root for the good guys, and that's kind of what I'm hoping people will retain when they leave us this afternoon. And you have some other thoughts that you would like to share about kindness.
Well, I mean, just recognizing, like what you're talking about there, just recognizing how much when you watch a movie, you're inspired by a movie, you're inspired by a book, how much you miss that you're not there. That's why we get so triggered by even beautiful things like that. We miss that we're not living in that spot all the time. Okay, so we may not be aware that we miss it, but we may long for it. We may long to know someone like that hero or heroine within ourselves.
Even better.
It's the heroine's journey,
of
or
course.
The hero's journey.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is the hero's journey. Hero/heroine, or just plain hero. There's a hero in all of us, I think, longing to create change, and frustration and fear come about when we don't believe we can.
Well, yes. And that's where, I always bring it back to working on your own connection to yourself. I mean, we have a triad of energy down in our lower three chakras that are really focused on how we relate to the external world. And whenever we're triggered or you feel something deep in that body, you know that there's a message there, that there's something there that is longing for you to come back to center. So when we are with someone, maybe it's as simple as someone doesn't ask you how well you're doing that day, or if you've been sick or something, an example, and you notice that little, oh, that person wasn't kind to me.
Didn't care that something bad had just happened to me,
Yeah.
And I was having a rough day.
And just realizing, oh, what is this? What is this attached to? What is this? Oh, I need approval. I need to be liked. These are all things that what we want to do is be connected to go deeper within, to be connected to that deeper issue within ourselves. Because ultimately, kindness will come from unconditional love. And we have to have unconditional love within ourselves first.
All of this is about starting, even in the research that I was reading, or the articles written by psychologists say, you have to start with yourself. You have to be kind to yourself. You have to love yourself. Probably the hardest job we'll ever have is doing that, I think.
Right. And for me, how I feel is to keep going within, removing resistance, because ultimately, unconditional love means we're connected to the divine.
Love that.
That we are connected, and we need to be have unconditional love when we fall out of that also.
I love that. So let me go back 1 second, because hold that thought.
Yep.
We need to have unconditional love when we fall out of that. You mentioned the chakra system, and for those who are unfamiliar with chakras, check out Carolyn Mays' work. She's got several bestsellers. I think the first one talks
Anatomy of the Spirit.
Yes, talks about chakras. They're energy centers that mystics and energy healers and those who deal in human energy for healing. There are a series of
seven within
locations.
The body.
Yes.
Yeah, seven chakras within the body. There's 5 above us and 1 below us. But mainly we always say that the first 3 chakras, they're related to the physical world.
All in your lower body. They're related to yourself, your relationship
to
with
your
others.
tribe, to your family, to your religion, to money, sex, and power, and to how you relate to yourself, to your self-esteem, to your self-worth. Those are the lower ones. It's the heart, the 4th one.
Yes.
That connects the lower and the uppers. So that's where we go into forgiveness, and we go into tolerance and acceptance and love. So it's working on, most of the time, we're going to get triggered by the lower 3.
Yes.
Of why we can't get into this space here.
We're kind of stuck between our gut and our heart, and raising into your heart where all the good stuff is, and connecting, of course, with all of your chakras, including the uppermost, which is our connection to the divine, they say, and which I believe and you believe. When we clear the pathway, that is where when we connect to the divine, we can stay
centered in that heart space.
Yes. Okay. There is a certain frequency involved in both hate and kindness and love. Those who are interested in frequencies have found that hate has a very low physical frequency. Love has an extremely high frequency. All very interesting stuff. And we wanted to talk about the frequency of the world, because as we are, so is the world.
Right. The planet is evolving, and the planet is also raising in vibration. The planet is not going to come down to where humanity is. Humanity has to rise up to where the planet is going.
And tell me how you've collected these thoughts.
Well, astrology
So astrologers are saying this is our time to rise.
Yes, they're speaking about, we're talking about the age of Aquarius, and it's a feminine energy. It's about love. It's about unity with everybody. So the planet we're entering this space. So the planet is rising. The mystics have been saying this for eons of time.
Increasingly so.
Right.
And more and more are showing up on the internet now that we're globally connected to say, this change is coming, that we are raising the frequency, that there are way more of us than you may think there are that are doing good on the planet. My lifetime belief.
Yeah.
And continue.
And Carolyn Mace, 20 years ago, was still speaking about the evolution that we're moving out of the Homo sapiens. We are evolving as humans, and the way I can say it is becoming a spiritual adult. And that's where we're all moving.
But it sure doesn't feel that way, does it?
No, but it's and we talk a little bit about having diversity and division, and maybe that's a little bit needed.
That's an interesting point that you make. You told me earlier that all this divisiveness, these people holding rigidly onto their ideas of what the world should be, what our country should be, is we're kind of showing each other our very base beliefs, things that may have been hidden away, that we didn't share as much as we're doing today because we have this connection of the internet, and maybe it's even fortified in a way because as we hit these polarities, we get more fearful that the other might make us live their way. Both sides, I think, are suffering from that.
Yeah. So it is about looking at each side and realizing that neither side is completely correct, and that there is middle ground. And I think we're kind of seeing that in America, that most of America wants to meet in the middle.
Yeah, I actually just joined an organization today called Builders. And they're trying to bridge the divide, and they're collecting members, and their whole point is we're at a crossroads, and what are you going to do about it? Action. Join us, and we can share the news about what everyone around the country is doing to bring us together.
And I do feel more and more people are starting to speak like that.
I do too.
And maybe all the division that we've had was needed to come up, to bubble up to the surface.
So we can see it.
So we can see it, and we can choose differently. And I think it's been around long enough that we know how uncomfortable it feels. That now most of who I am talking to they want out of that feeling.
Yeah, you are absolutely right. It is so uncomfortable.
Yes.
Everywhere I go, I have to wonder if I'm saying something that's going to create a negative charge in an old friend or any one of the people that I love that will make us feel divided. When in fact, among the people I love and care about, and among my friends and among my community and in my country, we are all one. We are Americans. People hate the idea sometimes of being global, but honestly, having been in many places in the world, we are so much more like each other. And people go like, yeah, I heard that. We are so much more like each other than we are different. My trip to Russia several years ago convinced me of how dear the Russians can be to someone they consider a friend. They treated my friends that I traveled with to Russia as if we were family, and what a beautiful experience that was. So no matter what you think of the Russians, I'm here to tell you, like us, they really just want peace on earth. They want to be able to enjoy each other, eat some good food, love their families, go to work.
And bring it even closer to home with your own family. We've always said, what is this? Okay, no talking about religion or politics at the dinner table or you get together with the family. And I have changed my my thoughts around that and my feelings around that. And I think it should be talked about, but we need to allow the other person to speak and not judge them. that
Yes.
because out of this conversation can come brilliance.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah, and that ability to raise in vibration. And how I know that I've been doing my own work is that I can sit and do that now and have that conversation and not be triggered. And I would say even 6 months ago, I was still being triggered, and I'm finding that what is going on, this whole thing that's playing out on the earth is helping us to evolve, to rise up, to
This whole thing happening now on the earth
Yeah.
is helping us to rise up. And
Yeah.
we, of course, can choose to rise or fall. And so that all depends. Are you going to choose kindness? Are you going to choose hatred? Are you going to choose to rise and look among your brothers and sisters and realize that every spiritual leader since the beginning of time, from pick one, Jesus onward, Buddha, love your brother and sister as yourself.
right.
So we go like, yeah, I've been to church on Sunday, did that. And we're suggesting that kindness could change everything in our world.
Yeah.
And I think Nancy and I both agree that we're hearing about that more and more. And that is the hope that we find today as the country gets a little crazier and more people, as things get crazier, more and more people that are at the edges trying to create this disruption, some of them even other countries, trying to create disruption in America by getting us to distrust and fear and hate each other. We've discussed how quantum physicists and astrologers and spiritual leaders and mystics, everyone is saying now that the work is to raise the vibration of the planet.
Become more aware. And talking about energy, what I had learned working with horses is, and I had that first revelation of this one time when I judged this one horse, and I realized how that judgment shut that horse down, because horses feel 100 times more than a human would feel energetically. What I realized is that when we have judgment, when I had judgment on that horse, I was actually trying to take that horse's energy. And
That's
that
an
when
interesting thing to say.
we have judgment on another person, we're actually trying to take their energy. And so unconsciously...
Do you mean disempower them?
Yes.
We want to take their power.
Yes.
Their energy, power.
Their power, yeah. So it is an energetic, almost like a hook that goes in to try to siphon off the energy off of somebody else, versus having our connection to the divine and receiving energy.
Versus having our connection to the divine, receiving energy from the divine and spreading that around,
Right.
instead of stealing or taking or disempowering the energy and power of another human or another creature, if we're going to go as far as horses, which you have spent so much of your lifetime learning about.
So people just don't have a lot of the knowledge. They don't understand. They're doing this unconsciously. Every time they attack the other side, right? It's just, we're trying to grab the energy for ourselves, and we're not connected.
It's not easy because it happened again in my husband and I have been dueling over the political divide since, I don't know, the last 2 or 3 years, becoming increasingly aware that we have different opinions about where the country should be going. And it's been very, very hard for each of us to listen to the other. And just last night again, we were both going, ay, I can't believe you think that way. And it is, the only thing that he can do to me or I can do to him is take away his beliefs, his power, and put mine into him. And we are each resistant to that.
Of course, when we take power away from someone else, or we're trying to put our own power into somebody, you're going to resist it. Right?
Everybody resists that.
It just
Don't tell me what to think. Don't tell me how to feel.
Just, and there's an unseen level that's going on, but from a very deep unconscious place within ourselves, we know it doesn't feel right.
It doesn't feel good at all. And how long do we want to not feel good? So what we are talking about today are some ideas on how to respond, if you're like me, to people that you adore that don't see life the way that you do. And this is probably a good thing to learn anyway, because it it isn't just politics that sometimes creates a division in my household, as you can imagine. Anybody in a relationship.
The workspace.
Yes. Well, in any relationship, it's better to have ideas on how to come together than to separate.
Right.
Nobody wants to live in a household where two people aren't speaking. That hasn't happened yet. I love my husband very much, but the butting heads sometimes gives me a bit of a headache. In any event, Nance, now we're going to talk about some thoughts on what people can do besides paying it forward, which is very simple. But let's go a little deeper than that.
So first of all, we want to energetically recognize within ourselves when we are losing that balance.
Just talking about it, I can feel it here. And that's really where, because I'm not feeling it here, I can't get there just yet. I can't get to my heart space when my stomach is all balled up because somebody doesn't agree with me.
Can you practice going to that still place within yourself?
Let's talk about that. How does that feel?
Conversation.
Oh, boy, you're asking a lot. But let's start with how that might happen. Let you be me, and I'll be my husband.
Okay.
And I'll go like, rah, 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 rah.
I actually focus my energy. I could feel it go outward to protect myself, or I can go deeper within myself and just connect in deeper. And in the breath, you just did it unconsciously, just like, just drop into myself. Where is our safety? In our body. That's where we're the safest.
That's a horse thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
But it's also true, and anyone who has
present.
practiced these exercises.
Yeah, and it's always about anytime I feel any type of trigger, any type of imbalance, I know I'm losing my connection to myself, to that center. So I'll literally drop in deeper into my body, and I send my energy down into my solar plexus, and almost connect in with it. Like lock in with it. Lock in with it.
Lock in.
Takes practice. Takes lots of practice. But I realize that, okay, if I'm here and I'm really present in my body, I have the ability to respond versus react. Which goes to when you're in that space and you can observe yourself from that place, you can tell when you have a judgment, which can be separating yourself from the other person, thinking you're superior, maybe even, versus, my opinion is this, but my opinion does not need to be their opinion. My perspective is this.
Well, there are some people who believe, on both sides, that if they can't convince the other, the world is going to come crumbling down on our heads, and that could happen.
That could happen, yes. But do you think that one conversation with changing someone's mind is going to stop the world from crashing down around us?
You mean with the rah, 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 rah on both sides? No. No. I don't see that.
Yeah.
However, that kind of escalating, those kind of conversations and escalating, I mean, surely that could bring my whole house down if I allowed it to. And of course I didn't, and neither one of us did. After we went rah, rah, we started talking about other things, and we, kind of...
So you do something to move the emotion.
Yes,
right?
We kind of let it go.
That's the thing is then, when you notice that, do something that you love to move the emotion.
I love that. We were watching what I love, which we were watching America's Got Talent, which always makes me smile and laugh. So, yes, we did.
Yeah.
Yes. What do you mean in your life? Do
Garden,
something you love.
go ride my horse, go play pickleball with my husband, do something that we can connect on.
I like that. That's
a
great idea.
Yeah, that we can have differences, yeah, but really, it's about focusing on yourself. Where I lost balance, when I do not feel fear when somebody else has a different opinion than me.
Okay, that's a really good place to start, because I am trying to be more fearless in my life. I'm trying to understand that first of all, there are things that I have no control over, and I kind of go with the prayer from AA, God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Now, some people would say, well, you can change this, you can make the other party think like we do.
Well, you know, we have our part in it, and our part in it would be to go out and vote. You know, if we're talking about
if we're talking about politics.
Yep. If you're called to be in politics, you can have, you know, a voice of trying to listen to both sides and not trying to say my side is right and there's nothing to change here.
Yeah.
Versus, you know, where we've always been politically. We've always been able to work across the aisle.
Absolutely. And politics has been a kind of dirty business, they say, since we began being political in our country.
And we know that both sides have things to change.
We do know that.
We know that, and I think each side is kind of coming to that perspective.
God, I hope so. I'm not sure that's true, but so really the only thing we have control over right now is ourselves. And as I said, there are increasing ways you can join organizations, and we've both agreed that we have seen increasing numbers of organizations that are trying to create peace. I'll put a few links to those in the box below this YouTube video. But
for us, it's doing this.
Yes, for us, it's doing this. That's
right. We're contributing.
Podcast. Do a podcast. It's easy.
Right. Practice tolerance and acceptance. Not
tolerance
only
and acceptance
outside of yourself, but within yourself. Okay.
Right. Tolerance and acceptance.
I lost my temper. I lost my temper. Or I'm feeling anger. I'm feeling like I want to rip this person's head off. You want to sit with that emotion and let it move through you and choose something different. Okay, this is where I lost my balance. You know, just move out that emotion.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Now, I'm going to say something very challenging because to those who believe that they must go to war now to get their side to win. And when I say war, I mean a political war, which may or may not erupt into a civil war in our country. When I think of things like the Holocaust, and where goodness and kindness didn't create any change at all, there was a wave of hatred coming across the world, and it was obviously led by Hitler in Germany. People fell into it, but perhaps the thing that I think we learned most about the Holocaust is that there were people throughout Europe and our country that did engage, and really in many places in the world that were providing a refuge for the victims of the Holocaust. We're seeing an ugly rising of the energies of that again today in Israel and Gaza, of course. But there is still kindness. There are still Israelis and Palestinians who are trying to come together. There's a YouTube video of a TED Talk where an Israeli and a Palestinian meet regularly to talk out their differences in an effort to show people it can be done. I believe there's some sort of a Palestinian-Israeli course working together. Everywhere there is disruption and upset, there are people who are trying to be kinder. So to be engaged in this disruption, our response to it could very well be kindness and could very well create the kind of influence that changes everything, I think.
Right. And if you feel called that you need to march for a cause, and most of these and most of the people are peaceful. Even you looked at all the Palestinians in America here that are trying to just get this noticed.
Yes.
That
attention.
They're doing peaceful marches. Yes, there's always going to be the few that
we never know if those are infiltrators from other countries who are again trying to create divisiveness, hatred, and
good point.
and a separation of Americans. But for the most part, my God, yes, peaceful protest is how our country will evolve.
Right.
And making your opinion known, there's nothing better than that. But nothing will change in a good way, in my belief, if you try to change it through hatred and through war.
Right.
And that's what we're coming to learn, as you were saying, about the world changing, the energy rising, people becoming more evolved and raising the frequency from hatred or just primitive trying to survive to an energy of kindness and even love.
And love, yeah.
And it is the age of Aquarius. We've been singing about that since the 70s.
I know. And I just find, just looking that up the other day, because as we're talking about this, I said, it's the age of Aquarius. And it was the fifth dimension.
That song is going to be stuck in my head all day.
And I'm like, how did
this
they...
is the dawn.
Those were the
age of Aquarius.
And that is connection. How did they channel that down?
I do not know. It's a miracle.
It's
They were just, I think they were just kind of baby stepping and just putting their toe into the waters of a better world, a better country, and a better humans.
Yeah, well, we had all this stuff in the 60s. That was starting back then.
Yes, and that was upset. That was showing the ugliest parts of ourselves and the very best parts of ourselves. So we could see the difference.
Yeah.
I think we're good.
I think we're good too.
All right. It's always lovely to talk with you about these things. Thank you, Nance.
Thank you.
Come again. We'll talk more. See ya.